Greetings and thank you for tuning in to Mr. Story Channel, where you can experience the most fascinating moments on Reddit. It's time for our first story. Am I the jerk for exploding at my family after finding out my uncle is actually my biological father? I don't even know what to feel about it. I posted on the other sub as well, but I just wanted to know what y'all think I should do. Hello, this is a throwaway account, obviously. I am female 18, and I think I just experienced the most messed up thing possible in my life. A bit of background. I have been raised by my grandparents for the whole of my life, and they did well, despite their advanced ages. I've been told by them early on that I was given up for adoption by some distant cousin. They didn't want to tell who at first, and that the person doesn't want to do anything by me. So I didn't think much of it. Besides, why would I want to do something with someone who doesn't want me? Anyways, when I reached 18, like a few weeks ago, my grandparents sat me down with my uncle. I'm not really super close with him, and then proceeded to tell me that he is my father. I was shocked, felt like the world was collapsing, and I was disoriented. My uncle then started crying and told me the reason why he abandoned me to my grandparents is that he blamed me for his wife died in childbirth. Like what the heck? His wife died giving birth to me, and thus he couldn't take it well through the grief and gave up me to my grandparents. After all that, it clicked to me. Why this particular uncle always resembles me so much, or how he always avoided me or acted cold to me during family functions, not that he always attended, or how my grandparents always didn't speak much of him. It's just so crazy to me. Admittedly, I couldn't hold my emotions well. I blew up at my grandparents and my uncle for keeping this secret from me and my uncle blaming me for the death of his wife. I ran to my room and locked myself there. My grandpa knocked several times on my room, but I kept calling them not nice names, so they left me alone eventually. It's been a few weeks now since it happened, and my uncle is nowhere to be seen. Good riddance, though. But my grandma said I could have at least understood his position and that he wanted to rekindle the father-son relationship. I said heck no, but then I don't know what to think about anymore. And I need time to process all this. I know this seems a 80s movie drama, but this is my life right now. I appreciate any solid advice from you guys. Let's see what kind of advice the community gave to Opie. Not the jerk. All three of them, and probably the rest of your extended family, have lied to you for your entire life. They've all had 18 years to tell you the truth, and now they expect you to be fine and accepting when they turn your world on its head. And he blamed you, a child, for the passing of your mother and abandoned you to be raised by his parents. Oh no, he's someone you barely know and do not have a close relationship with. Why is he so keen to establish a parental relationship now? Is it just because you are now legally an adult and he would no longer be financially responsible for you? Don't let them guilt you or push you into a decision. This isn't a fairy tale where the truth comes out and everyone plays happy family. They dropped a huge bombshell on you and need to accept that you need time to process this. My cousin went through something similar. Her biological father was absent for most of her life, refusing to believe or admit that he was her father, and only started reaching out and acknowledging her when she was 18, as he wouldn't have to pay child support anymore. It took a long time and a lot of soul-searching for her to accept him, and even now they are not close but are on speaking terms. If you are enjoying these stories, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. This helps a lot. Thanks. And for our next story, am I the jerk for not taking my stepson on my birthday activities? This is pretty long, so bear with me. I, 34 female, have asked my partner/BF, 37 male, to not do anything for my birthday on my actual birthday because his son will be with us that weekend. We have been dating for 5 years and living together for 3 years. He has a son, 10 years old, from a previous marriage with a very high conflict baby mama. When I say high conflict, I mean she has gone to the extent of threatening to harm us and our children. I have 2 daughters from my former marriage and 1 daughter with my current partner. She is very controlling and just loves to cause chaos. About 3 months ago, she decided she would get my stepson an iPhone so she could have access to him at all times and track us. We tried to tell her the tracking was unnecessary and it's invading privacy. She went off threatening and calling names like usual. We let it go, but it has gotten to the point where she calls and texts all day and will ask, "What are you doing at X location?" It's just too much for me, and I am not comfortable with someone having my location at all times, especially someone like her. Keep in mind we don't track him when he is with her because he is with his mom. I have made my feelings known about this, but my partner/BF says he doesn't want to deal with court yet again. I get he wants to avoid going back and just let it go, but I'm not okay with it. This month's my birthday, and I told him I wanted to wait to go somewhere the weekend after my birthday when we don't have his son. I don't want to spend my birthday knowing we can't do anything without her tracking us everywhere we go. I just want some type of privacy. I love my stepson, and we do other things as a family, but I'd like just this one day to have some privacy. Edit. For the ones saying it's not that serious if she has your location, let me add a couple things. She has made threats to hurt us and our other children in the home. It was through text, so we did go to the police and make a report. Also, before the phone, he had an iPad at her house and a Nintendo Switch here. He never brought the iPad until our daughter was born last year. The minute he went home and told her his sister was born, she sent him with the iPad that weekend to take pictures. He had not shared pictures with anyone or on social media because we wanted to keep her to ourselves for a bit. This was a big deal, calling us names and calling our 4-day-old a horrible baby. She was angry. We didn't let him take pictures of her until we had shared with our family and friends first. So yes, it bothers some when someone who is threatened and has said out loud she hates us and wishes bad on a newborn and she has access to your home like that. We have also talked to my stepson about the phone, and his reason for not allowing Dad to see it is because he says he needs to protect his mom's privacy. When he was told he needed to leave it charging in the kitchen overnight, his response was, "If you take it, I'll tell my mom, and she'll get back at you worse." I'm honestly in my limit. What should I do? Now I'm feeling selfish for not wanting to invite my stepson, but don't I deserve to have some peace in my own birthday? Yeah. I think that Opie should have a heart-to-heart with her husband, communicating that this situation is affecting her badly and they need to work to solve this as soon as possible. How do you think that Opie should deal with this situation? Tell me in the comments section. And for our next story, my fiancé start mistreating me after learning about his ancestry. Are we doomed? How can I help him navigate this identity journey but do it in a way that isn't totally toxic? I, 31 female, have been in a wonderful relationship with my fiancé, let's call him John, for nearly 4 years. We met when we were both finishing grad school for different things, and have supported one another through the start and growth of our careers. It's a cliché, but it's true. John was different from all the guys I'd known before him. I didn't understand men or what was right for me before I met him. I was pursuing guys based on superficial attraction, then getting my heart broken when it didn't work out. John was totally different. He is so intelligent and so considerate, and this was something I didn't even know I needed. He told me later that he was in love with me after the second time we met, though we didn't say it until later. Skipping ahead. We're due to be married next year, and we've talked about kids. John found out at the start of this year that his father, whom he never really knew very well, had died in an accident. This had a huge impact on him, even though he didn't want to talk much to me about it, saying he barely knew him and he was basically a sperm donor. But he decided to take a common commercial DNA test because we needed to know about his health background for our future kids. This is where the trouble started. So it turns out John has a certain amount of African ancestry, which you absolutely could not tell from looking at him. I've seen a picture of his father, and he appears white. We already know his mom's ancestry in detail, so this really came as a surprise. And I think now that he is channeling all this feeling about losing/not knowing his male parent into a sort of identity crisis about his ancestry, and it's really changing how he relates to me. Time to mention that I'm a descendant of a population that has historically been racialized in the United States, and I would consider myself a racialized person. We live in a part of the country that's like oppressively white. So John doesn't actually know any wise black people who could offer him guidance. I do know some really great black guys from earlier in my life, but he's uncomfortable reaching out. He says his ancestry is something he has to feel, which is fine, but I feel like this just means he's taking really problematic representations of black people as his guide. Honestly, Reddit, so far, he's just mainly listening to a lot of cheesy 2000s club music and 90s gangsta rap. Ice Cube and 50 Cent, a lot. And here's the first major problem. He says the whole N-word aloud now when he's singing along. This isn't something he would have dreamed of doing before. But he takes the lyrics really seriously. We had a major fight when he got angry towards me for silly dancing to some of his music and not taking it seriously. We had a conversation about this where I explained how unsafe this anger made me feel, and instead of listening to what I was telling him, he replied with lines from the music. I was so shocked I thought he must have been drunk, but he insisted he wasn't. That was honestly hugely upsetting for me, that his journey means basically devaluing my perspective as a person myself. I pointed this out to him, how I can offer some insight, and he basically totally undermined my perspective and identity, saying he is the racialized person in the relationship now. The dancing fight was 2 months ago, and I feel like it's just been this weird drip of toxic changes from him since then. In that time, he has gotten ticketed for drinking in public. I wasn't with him at the time, but this is bizarre for him. Started going to the gym like crazy, and started to use the N-word around me a lot, and even in context where it doesn't make sense. I don't know if he's using it in other situations like at work, etc. He just overall seems to be undermining and totally dismissive of me. I really, truly love this man, and I've always been confident that he loves me. This is the person that was going to give me the life we wanted together, but I just do not know what's happening now. I feel like he's going insane. The test said 15% of African ancestry, which is about the same as one great-grandparent. I'm obviously not the arbiter of anyone else's identity, but also I feel like that's not a lot to justify this complete change in his personality and behavior. How do you think that OP should deal with this situation? Let me know in the comments. And for our next story, my boyfriend, 29 male, applied for a $17,000 loan on my behalf, 25 female. Isn't that illegal? Hey everybody. I'd like to ask for your subjective opinion on a situation that happened to me, or rather what my boyfriend did to me. I guess I don't need advice completely. I know the decision itself is up to me, but I would be interested in other people's reactions. My boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years. We've known each other since elementary school. We've always had a thing for each other, and our relationship is a pretty good love story. Unfortunately, the last year, I've started to notice a significant change on his part. He was always sleeping around, switching between jobs, drinking a lot and doing illegal substances, not functioning as a man in the house. Basically, I was on my own for a lot of things, and there wasn't much zest for life with him. I asked countless times what was wrong. He always told me nothing, that it was age, that he was turning 30 and was in a funk, that he hadn't accomplished anything and was burned out at work. He worked in IT and as a DJ. It had been a tough year, but we decided to get a dog who would bring lots of love and joy into our lives. We were looking forward to it, and it was one of the things to get him on his feet a bit. On the day when I had already signed the contract for the dog and was about to send it off, I got a call from the bank that someone had applied for a loan on my behalf for nearly $17,000. Someone who had access to my passport and ID and even sent them my bank statements. The only one who has access to this is my boyfriend, who denied it until I totally folded, then confessed. He even opened an account with another bank and asked for more large sums there as well. Luckily, he didn't get away with any of it. Finally, he told me that he had been in big debt for a year because of illegal substances and that he was afraid to tell me and thought he would somehow work it out and I wouldn't find out. He didn't tell anyone, not even his friends. He misused my personal information without my permission. He went into my phone at night and got my bank details. I have no idea what to do. I canceled the adoption of our dog, of course, but he was to be my future husband, and we were to be together for the rest of our lives. Now I don't even know what kind of person he is. I can't trust him. There is a lot of anger in me, and I don't know if I will ever be able to forgive this. Thank you for your opinions and kind suggestions. I think that OP need to protect herself and drop this guy like a bad habit. Just found out that my husband, 34 male, met his ex, 28 female, last year without my knowledge. Has anyone else faced a similar situation? I have been married to my husband for 2 years, and we dated for 1.5 years before getting married. 6 months into our relationship, his ex, who was living in the US, reconnected with him. She had a habit of micro-flirting, which always bothered me, but since she was in a different country, I assumed she wouldn't interfere much in our relationship. However, there were instances that made me uncomfortable. For example, about a year into our relationship, I asked my husband to upload a picture of us together, and he hesitated. saying he had loaned his ex money for her studies and didn't want to risk upsetting her and losing that money since she was still upset over their breakup. He eventually posted the picture after a month, once I met his family, and she soon returned the money. Despite this, issues with her continued. I found messages where she asked if he had gone out with his girlfriend, and he responded, "No, just with friends." A month before our wedding, I saw text from her asking if she was hot and if she could get him with a wink emoji. My husband responded by telling her he was getting married to me. I was upset and told him her behavior was inappropriate, but it didn't stop. As we prepared to move to the US, he asked her for visa information, and she cried, saying he never came to the US when she asked, but now he was coming and getting married. He apologized, explaining that the opportunity hadn't presented itself before. After our wedding, she continued calling, asking for closure after he removed her from social media. My husband told her that I didn't like her and she should stop contacting him. We moved to the US, and during this time, I lost my job, which shattered me emotionally. My husband became very particular about money, often taunting me for not working. Even after I found a job, our issues persisted, and he would give me the silent treatment for days. I frequently slept in a separate room. Joining a yoga class and making friends brought me some comfort, but my mental state suffered as I constantly worried about our marriage. We moved to another part of the US, and I was 2 hours away from the friends I had made. My husband and I had a huge fight in July last year, and I moved into a hotel for a week. During that time, he removed our pictures from his social media. When I returned, I tried to escape our constant fighting by visiting friends and exploring the countryside. We rarely traveled together because of our conflicts, and when I asked if he wanted to go somewhere, he always said he was too tired. So, I traveled with friends instead. Later, I noticed he started going on trips on weekends while we weren't speaking, in September last year to be more precise. We occasionally traveled together, but mostly separately. I also discovered that he had been searching for flights to San Francisco, where his ex reside. When I confronted him, he claimed he was just checking flights and wouldn't meet her. I even messaged his ex on Facebook, asking her to stay away from him because it was damaging our marriage. In August this year, we were trying to work on our relationship. One issue my husband raised was that I kept bringing up his ex, even though he insisted he wasn't in contact with her. I believed him. One day, I had his phone in my hand, scrolling through pictures from his recent trip, when a call came in from a friend. I clicked on the screen, and to my shock, it was his ex. He had saved her number under a friend's name. I asked him to move out, but he apologized, promised not to speak to her again, and blocked her on everything. Things seemed to be improving until a few days ago, when I found a picture of him with her from last year. He had met her during one of his trips in September and stayed with her. I asked him to move out again and told him I wanted a divorce. He's now saying he met her as a friend and doesn't want a divorce. Now I don't trust him anymore, and I'm honestly done trying to save this marriage. And for our last story of today, am I the jerk for not paying my mom rent? I'm 20 and work full-time and live at home. When I was 18, my mom indirectly kicked me out during my final year of high school by asking for €500 a month in rent, even though I was barely earning anything and trying to save for college. When I started college, I had to move out since my family lives too far from any college to commute. I was on a government grant, receiving €150 every 2 weeks, but it was tough to manage. I had to work full-time while also studying full-time. Meanwhile, my mom was receiving €150 a week in child support for me and another €150 for my younger brother, but I didn't get any financial support from her. Balancing work and school became overwhelming, and this year I had to drop out because my grant was denied due to higher earnings, rent prices increased, and I couldn't keep up with working 45-hour weeks plus 25 hours of classes. Now, I'm back living with my mom, working full-time, and saving as much as I can. My mom is nearly 50 and works as a bartender like me, but she only does 20 hours a week, claiming she's too old for more. While I'm working 50-plus hours, she feels entitled to my earnings. She drinks and smokes grass daily, and even though she owns the house outright and has 6 acres of land, she complains she doesn't have money to turn it into a B&B like she planned. She built a cabin but lets her boyfriend live there rent-free and sometimes even gives him money for drinks or cigarettes. The house is falling apart. There are rats in the walls, and when I returned, my bedroom was in terrible shape. There was no bed frame, black mold under the mattress, and filthy carpet. I had to buy a new bed frame, mattress, and carpet with my own money, but my mom complained that I had enough disposable income to afford those things. Now, she's asking me for 100 to 150 euros a week in rent, which I feel is unfair. She refuses to work more hours, gave her B&B away rent-free, and let the house deteriorate while I wasn't living here. I already cover all my own food, laundry, and personal expenses and contribute minimally to household costs like utilities. I don't mind helping her out, but I think asking for that much rent is unreasonable given the situation. Am I wrong for not wanting to pay it? Or at least not in cash? It's very difficult for me to just leave as I have a 14-year-old brother who, frankly, if I don't make sure he doesn't get into trouble, my mom just leaves him to his own devices. He misses a lot of school and has had a couple run-ins with the cops. She feeds him and cares about him, but she's just not responsible enough to parent him right now. She wasn't always like this. My dad basically stripped her of all her life's work and worth and left her with very little money or prospects, and since then she's delved much deeper into her vices and insecurities. Note: I didn't receive any of the child support she was getting from me from my dad despite being a child in need of support while living alone trying to get an education at college. The total of the child support that I didn't see a cent of would be roughly 12,000 euros or $13,000. Edit: a reason for this may be because she is no longer receiving $150 a week from my dad as I am no longer attending college, which has probably put a financial strain on her. Edit Part 2. My dad divorced. My mom took me and my brother off his will, sold his businesses, and left the country after cutting ties with me and my family. My mom is currently in a legal dispute over the sale of businesses, as she saw nothing from them despite contributing largely to them. So no, my dad's help is not an option. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and watching until the end. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you saw and want to stay updated on future content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when I release new videos, and you'll be helping to support my channel. So, go ahead and click that subscribe button, and let's keep this journey going together. Thanks again for your support.